Professional brainstormer, if I can
I
put it
love
that.
it. I love that. My mind is blown. A professional brainstormer. Like, you just knocked it out the park. That's what we are. We are professional brainstorming people. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to everybody. This is our next episode of Collectiv Conversations, where we're having dialogue and conversation with some of the most international leading accounting, finance, FP&A thought leaders all across the globe. So this continues our series. I'm really excited to talk with Tejas, who is the Director of Business Consulting at Akshar Consulting. Tejas, if you haven't seen his stuff on LinkedIn, if you haven't seen the awesome content that he puts out, if you haven't seen him virtually, he's a dynamic presenter, over 16 years experience in the accounting, FP&A, finance space. Dude knows his stuff. I'm excited to have you on the podcast here today, Tejas. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. It's a pleasure always talking to you.
Definitely. So, I always like to start off, and the first thing, like I always start off with all of our presenters and people that we have guest starring on the podcast, is the first one is, what's the first word that comes to mind when you think of FP&A?
I think first word which comes to my mind with FP&A is always insights, because it's a department which should bring about insights to the business. You should be the business department which brings the business together, joining the dots and bringing the picture together and showing the business, you know what, this is where we are going. Is this where we want to go? That kind of conversation is what I think, FP&A is all about. So insights is the one word I would focus on that one.
Got it. Yeah, and I think like insight. When you talk about insights this year, right? Like looking, like you talk about this is the year of the insights, right? Like I think about like being during the pandemic and just all the different scenario planning and modeling and just conversations and like it seemed like every day there was a new insight to pick up. And even still, as we, some countries still going through the pandemic and still, going out of lockdown, going into this, I find myself every day just thinking through insights, like insights, whether it's coming around this vaccine or around US economy or the global economy, or you name it across the board, man. It's just like insights are prevalent. But I think the challenge that I want to kind of dive into with you from a people perspective is one of the key things with accounting and finance and FP&A is transitioning that insights to information that people can understand, right? I think so much we get the Achilles heel where, we speak our finance or accounting jargon to our business, leaders and stakeholders that we support, and nobody knows what the hell we're talking about. So my question to you is, how do you empower those listeners and people listening right now to take that insight, to take it to actionable insights, to information that people can understand? How would you advise people to, from a people perspective, making that connection?
Yeah, see, that is the thing. I think that is why I love FP&A. Let's just go back to that one first, right?
Okay.
That is the key reason why I love FP&A, because I think FP&A brings it together. In FP&A, you don't have a choice to talk accounting jargons of, oh, deferred revenue, and I don't know, this is my accrual in the bank. And you don't have that luxury. You
Right.
cannot talk like that. FP&A is a unique function by itself within finance. So it sits within finance. It's a function which has to work across the business. So I have, in my role, I have worked and I have spoken to and, shared meals with, warehouse managers, guys who are preparing shift rotas for, the warehouse staff and things like that. And I can't talk to them all this. I mean, they really, I mean,
No
honestly,
way. You'll lose them. You'll lose
yeah,
them, man.
you're a weird guy, man. And they will not have want to talk to me. I have to learn their language and, in fact, take a step back, interpret that in my language. So it's not taking my language and putting into their language. I would say almost start with their language.
Wow. Yeah.
Start there. Start where their comfort zone lies. And frankly speaking, we are most people in FP&A, at least in certain level of, when you are in a managerial position, you are most of them are qualified or at least partly qualified. You are qualified to actually be comfortable in your own skin, in your own finance space. So now when you are in experience, go and be comfortable in other people's space.
Ooh, that's
And
key.
that's
That's
the
key.
key. because otherwise you're going to lose them. If I start talking, all jargon and balance sheet and P&L and cash flow to those guys, they're going to be like, what the hell? They want to know how you can help them. How many people should I have on this shift? How many, what is the space in the warehouse do I need?
Right.
Or, how can I make this shipping more efficient and make my guys work less hard? That saves me money as well, but he doesn't care about that. You see
Yes,
what I mean? He doesn't,
definitely.
and he shouldn't. Or, the sales guy, empower him to make a better sale, convert more of his leads into actual, revenue. That's what he cares about. He doesn't care about my budget is this, my plan is this, or my target is this. He doesn't care a damn about that.
Right.
What you want is to be able to talk in their language, almost start on their playground, and in your own mind map bring it back into the language which you can go back into your Excel book or your document and work with. But start with them, not with you, for sure.
I love that perspective, man, because I think so many times people struggle with making that transition, right? Like, and it's always that middle ground, right? Where you're dealing with the stakeholder that, like you said, that warehouse manager, all they care about is the shift and people that they have. You're trying to understand how these people are going to drive more output, more production, more efficiency, but you've got this middle gap, right? And a strong FP&A accounting and finance people that you, like you said, that can transition. And I love your perspective where you talk about go sit in their shoes, right? Go spend a moment and live and breathe in what they do, you know?
Yeah, I tell you, there are two things I want to add to that one. A, you mentioned LinkedIn earlier. I have to say, some of the voices on LinkedIn, they're all saying finance should, extend themselves. I would say no. Finance, forget that you're a finance professional. That is there. That's a given, right? So you should almost put that, take that chip off your shoulder, put it on the side, and go. Because if you ask a finance director, even a CFO, to go and manage a warehouse, you know what? He can't manage a warehouse.
Nah,
Okay. Or tell him to go to a customer site and convert a sale. You know what? He's not going to convert a sale. He's a very good CFO, most likely, but he's not going to be able to do the selling. So we need to, the voice should be different. The voice should be start in their shoes, as you said, right? Perfectly. And the second thing is the fact that we need to be, be open minded, because finance tends to think everything is finance numbers. It's not. Actually, numbers can be non-financial numbers as well. And there's a lot of operational stuff out there. The minute we start connecting our operational reality to our financial numbers is the day when you are actually adding insights. Because you mentioned actionable insights. Actionable insights are nothing but taking my finance modeling idea and saying, okay, operationally, this means you get up tomorrow morning and do this. You press this button, you change this shift pattern, you change this commission reward system, you do whatever. Like if you have a cash flow problem, make your commissions based on not only revenue but revenue, profit, and cash flow. And I've seen that in action. So things like that, go from here to there, but talk in their language, which they, otherwise you are going to lose your customer, I think.
definitely, man. I love it already, man. You're bringing such a fresh perspective, and I agree with you. I think a lot of times, like you have to shed that accounting, finance. I mean, we all have it. Like I was walking with a friend today, and we were talking about, she's in event planning and event marketing, and I was like, "What do you think of when you think of a accounting and finance person?" They're like, "Well, I know when I work with our business operation, who's an accounting and finance person, they start with talking about all these numbers, and I'm lost." And I just say, "Okay, yeah, like sure." And you sit there and like, I think that's such a such a fatal flaw a lot of accounting, finance, FP&A people make is I think when you go for a moment and sit in their shoes, you build a relationship on trust versus competency, right? To me, I've always looked at relationship building with my stakeholders, or not even just stakeholders and just people in business. You know what I mean? I've always looked at to not go the competency route, which is the budget, the ASC 606, the changes in gap accounting, and all this stuff. You got to go establish a trust. You gotta live and breathe. You got to be in the trenches with these people. You have to go through some wars with these people before they're like, man, Chris, I trust you as my business partner.
That is it, right? That's it. To be honest, that is where the FP&A separates from accounting to begin with. So all the things that you said of gap and SOX and all, I've been a SOX auditor as well. All of that is very important and it is very relevant. But that is when I am wearing my financial controller cap or my auditor cap. That's a different cap. But the minute I wear my FP&A cap, I have to forget all of that. Okay, that is why we have to in at least UK, most medium-sized businesses have two functions of accounting or controllership, what we call, and then there is FP&A, and the segregation exists for that reason itself. That these guys are supposed to be aware of technical accounting, but are not supposed to talk technical accounting all day, right?
They sound like robots at that point.
And that is it. See, that is why I was going through the questions you sent me across, and I was like, you know what, this is going to be a really interesting conversation because I've seen a lot of your content on AI and things like that. I have been a controller for my first 7 or 8 years in my career. I can actually imagine 80-90% of that work a machine could do without me.
Automated, automated.
Autom- How many new transactions are there every month? How many new invoices or new cost nature is there every month?
The same way we record depreciation is probably the same way IFRS records depreciation. Like that's the thing. I love, and let's weave into that one because I think when you talk about this impact that we have, and I love how you segmented and like transitioned it up to say this is where the line stops and this is where it begins. Now I agree with you 100%. Having that technical knowledge, having that strong foundation, like you, I started off as an auditor. I started off in Big Four in public accounting. I got all my chops in that, but I quickly realized that, this isn't going to be the future, right? Like this is, to me, accounting was always algebra. It was just business level algebra. That's all it really was to me.
That is all it is.
That
That's
is it.
we
Entire
could have upset
accounting
some
is,
people on LinkedIn. You know that, right? We could
yeah,
upset
yeah.
some people on LinkedIn saying this.
Yeah, but I think this is why we have these conversations with thought leaders like you. It's like people. I think so many leaders and people in that are leading Fortune 500 companies and been 30, 40 years in the game, and they're like, Chris, what you're talking about is so like off the radar. And not, I'm like, there are businesses doing that right now. Like this isn't like made up. You know what I mean? And this is where that chasm needs to be crossed for thinking about it from a people perspective, right? Like when I think about, and this is the next point, the question I want to ask you, when you think about those skill sets, and you articulated it real well, like controllership ends here, FP&A starts. What would you say are those top three definitive skill sets that every top FP&A professional has?
Number one is basically data. If they don't have data management skills, please don't come into FP&A. That is a absolute like your bread and butter. Okay. Second is exactly what we talked about. You call it business partnering in Andreas's language. You call it walking in their shoes in our language. Call it what you like, but be comfortable with people. And third is actually come with an open mind, not with an agenda. I hate the word on LinkedIn where people go on and on about influencing. You know what, when you walk into a meeting and you have an agenda in your back of your mind of I am going to influence this person, the person knows. Okay, you may use the best influencing book there is. The reality is the person picks it up, and that is when the walls start going up. That's when they are like, you know what, this finance person is trying to manipulate me and I don't. Do you like to be manipulated? Who likes to be manipulated? Show me one person who wants to be manipulated. Nobody. So no influencing at all. Strictly, absolutely stop talking influencing. Come with an open mind.
Yeah.
I have worked, luckily, with fingers crossed, I have had a chance to work with actually finance directors at Unilever, at GE Healthcare, even at Vodafone. I've sat in the same room with the CEO, right? I mean, when I forget his name anymore. Anyway, so I have done that. But if you try to start influencing them with a preconceived agenda, okay, or you work with a warehouse manager and you work with them in a preconceived agenda, they will know. So no doing things like that. Come with an open mind, know your data, and be comfortable with what you don't know in terms of business partnering, communication, walk in their shoes, understanding their story, focus on them, not you. And that has consistently won me like tremendous credibility in every business I've gone into, because they're like, you have no guards. You just walk into a meeting and you come with an open, you put all your cards on the table, you're sitting there and just listening to us.
Yeah.
How do we fight with you? I'm like, but exactly, why do we want to fight? There is no reason to fight. We all are in the same business. We are all trying to go in the same direction of adding value to the business, to make this business more profitable, to make this business bigger and greater. And that's what we want. If we all don't want the same thing, then there is a problem. But I see lots of FP&A people trying to go with influencing. Oh, let me influence, let me change the way he's doing things. First, listen to him. Why is he doing it like that? What is he benefiting out of it? Is it historic or is it just his lack of creativity?
Right.
Understand all those things.
Yes.
Then think about, okay, really blank minded, what should I do? How do I think I can actually help him?
Yes.
And when you really from your core come like that, you know what, the aura and the messaging, the body language which you will convey is, you've actually come with an open mind. And that is where you will win it. I've helped businesses implement even KPIs for their third party suppliers. Even the third party suppliers have seen me and they're like, are you really a finance person? I'm like, yes, I am. You want me to show you my certificate? But that's because I don't come with preconceived notions. And that gives you success. That genuinely gives you success, I feel. Sorry, I feel very passionate about this. I don't
Yeah,
like when
I mean,
finance.
I love it, and you can tell Tias is coming through, and like, I love the idea of open mindedness, and yes, all the listeners, everybody looking at this, we are challenging you to get outside of your cave of your Excel spreadsheets to actually go talk to people, and granted, it's difficult now because you don't have that office interaction, but come into any conversation with an open mind. That you have to do that, right? I think when you come with an open mind, to piggyback on what you said, you automatically kind of just open up the creativity valve, which I think to me in FP&A is all about creativity. It's all about collaboration. It's all about communication, and it's all about consistency. I call it like the 4 C's of what FP&A brings, right? Because if we can communicate, if we can collaborate with you, if we can be consistent in our approach, and we can be like that communicative factor that comes in, like, not just tells you when your business are doing wrong and cracks you across the head, you know,
Exactly.
but almost be like to the point of like, hey, I'm your champion to help support you, right? And the open mindset. And I agree with you too on the data side. Like, you have to have the data skills. Like, there's no way you're going to be successful if you don't have the Power BI, the technology skills, the Excel modeling, the scenario planning. Like, to me, that's like baseline what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, again, to carry on with your point of clarity, of communication and, this collaboration, you can collaborate with somebody if you are coming with an open, positive mind. If you come with like if I am sitting in this conversation and I try to influence you and try to get advantage out, it's you will pick it up, man. People are
Of
not
course.
silly. We tend to think, oh, I'm a finance professional, I'm very smart. No, they are not silly. Don't underestimate them. Be open about it. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think
Yes,
actually we are equipped to, and I think as a professional and qualified professional, we are actually equipped to manage it. It's just that we don't want to get out of the routine rut of, I am comfortable with this, I'm going to go and tell them what they need to do, and they will have to just do it, otherwise I'll go to their boss. You know what, you can go to their boss. That is where then the problem will be, of what you tell them and what they implement. Where we talk about communication gaps and things like that, is because of there is no understanding of the spirit of what is being communicated.
right.
There is the words being communicated, and then there is a spirit behind which is there
Definitely.
behind it.
Yes,
And only when you come with an open mind is when you come out and have a conversation, strategic conversation, a transformational conversation, in the spirit of things.
definitely.
Right, 74% transformations fail because people get a list and they action the list. They don't understand the spirit behind the list, of what
Nice.
was the logic behind it.
Yeah.
And that when you start picking up and you have, that is why 20, only 20%, 24% transformations are successful, 25%, because those are businesses where leaders are communicating with an open mind, explaining the spirit and logic, clarifying what they are saying. And that is where then you start, people understand that, and they start coming along with you on the journey.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will follow a list. You gave me a list. I did what you asked me to do. I don't know why it didn't work. That's what you'll
Yeah.
get. And you don't,
Yeah.
do you want that? Who wants that?
Nobody wants that. I mean, but some people do, though. I think you brought up a great point, and another question I want to ask you is, I think me working in kind of the U.S. high growth entrepreneurial technology space, I've been so used to being in an empowerment culture, meaning that I'm empowered to make decisions, I'm empowered to fail, I'm empowered to learn. But what you just talked about, that directive driven, go jump off of a bridge because I told you to. In Europe, a lot of teams are, used to that kind of mentality, right? And the pandemic has brought a whole nother wrinkle along that empowerment versus directive driven culture, because now you don't have the ability, if you're a directive driven leader, to go tell that person in the office, go do what I tell you to do, and you don't trust that they're doing work. And it brought up this whole thing. So my question to you is, what role do you think in FP&A looking forward does an empowerment versus a directive driven leadership style, management style play in FP&A's value proposition in the future?
Let me turn the question back to you and ask you a question. How many businesses do you think survive, at least manage to survive or even prosper during the pandemic? And what is unique about those businesses?
I honestly, I think the ones that have survived are the ones, the ability to change, the ones who that are flexible, and the ones that are just learning as they go. Right? I think like
And they're flexible and they're learning as they go because they empower the people, because the director is not every day standing over your shoulder talking to you, have you done this? Because then you cannot actually be flexible, right? How are you going to be flexible? Because that means every day I have to get the information, go up the chain, communicate, come back down with instructions, and then go and implement. That takes time, and now with not being in office, the time is even more elongated. Whereas
yeah,
only play way you are going to be able to do that is by empowerment, by letting people be and having faith in them that you know what, they will bring their best. And if they don't, then you know what, there's a conversation to be had. I'm not saying everybody is. In my 16 years of career, I think I've had two or three people which have not have let my empowerment down, that okay, I've given them the power to do what they want and they have let me down, but that's three people over 16 years. You know what, it's not a bad bet. I'd do that any day again. That's one. And two, you know what? Those people moved out of finance because
yeah,
actually it's not my empowerment which was the issue. They were in the wrong function. They were not motivated to do what they wanted to do. And I actually coached them and worked with them that, you know what, are you really interested in doing what you're doing? Do you really want to be doing this? No, actually, Tejas, I don't really enjoy the numbers and the Excel. Fine. What do you want to do? And then move out to that.
yeah,
So but otherwise empower people, otherwise you will never, man. I mean, I have been very fortunate. I've always had people and managers who have like, do what you want to do, I just need this to be done, and I'm like, yeah, leave it to
yeah.
me and I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I had the same thing. When I look back over 4.5 years here at Marcis, I had the same thing. Like throughout my career, I've always pretty much had leaders and managers that are always empowerment. And maybe that's because of the space I was in high growth entrepreneurial tech companies where you wear all different hats and you don't have the time to be micromanaged. But I know to some of the listeners, and I get a lot of people asking me that is, and you articulated it so well. I think the companies, the teams, and the organizations that thrive during the pandemic that are ultimately going to continue to have an upward trajectory are the ones that were empowering their people. Because like this virtual aspect of it, yeah, it's a messed up experience. Like I would love to be sitting down with you face to face talking about this over in London, but at the same time, you're able to still produce value, right? You're able still to drive efficiency, right? You're still able to collaborate. And to me, like a common question I get, and I want to take it off to you, is a lot of leaders and people reach out to me and ask me, like, Chris, how in this remote environment do I still keep a pulse with my people? Like, how do I still engage with my team? How do I still, be an effective leader in this remote environment? How have you, or what are some insights you can provide to those listeners that are having that challenge of continue to build their brand, continue to build the value proposition of FP&A they're trying to build, but in a remote workspace? Like, how would you go about helping those people?
Again, communication, right? Communication and collaboration. So we already touched base on that one. That is the only way. I am currently doing a project as well, and the only way I get around things is I ping people, talk to them. How are you doing? Where are you? We were expecting certain things. Is it coming along fine? Is it not coming along? Are you struggling with something? Just have those conversations and even upward communication. I am very happy to actually be held accountable every day. Before I am asked, I always provide an update of, you know what? I was supposed to do X, Y, and Z today, but I have done X and Y and Z is stuck because of ABC. And that's fine. The more there is, I know people who know me very well, they will tell me, they just, you always over communicate, but I still genuinely believe there is nothing like over communication.
I agree with
There
you
is
100%.
nothing like over communication. Communicate at least that way, because you know what, the opposite person will either assume the worst or assume the best with your silence, whereas you can clarify the either of those scenarios by actually providing the factual information.
Yeah,
Because if they assume the best, that everything is going swimmingly well, even that's bad, because sometimes you might be struggling.
yeah,
And if you have not communicated it, you are the one working till 12 o'clock in the night and nobody knows because you've not communicated it.
yeah,
And sorry, but that's just your fault. Nobody
yeah,
else's fault. So don't. Whereas, and obviously, if there is place things that you're stuck with, they're not going, or people are assuming that you're a lazy bugger not doing anything all day. Again, communicate. Then you are able to actually evidence that, you know what, these are things I'm working on. This is why it's taking time and stuff like that. And there will always be people who will have unrealistic expectations. Again, manage that. I've had one manager in my entire everything. Oh, this will take you 2 minutes. This will take you 2 minutes. Like your mind 2 minutes or real world 2 minutes, because your mind 2 minutes and real world 2 minutes are two different 2 minutes. So let's talk this through. And he needed to be coached, and
yeah,
he was, obviously you can't be rude because he's the guy I'm working for, but at the same time, I was still happy to put it like that to him, and he would smile. I would smile as well, and it would come to that. So you will manage in this obviously pandemic environment as well. You will have people who are under say, oh, why have you not done this by now? Real world time or your mind time? Because in my mind I know how quickly I can move an Excel book, but when I come to a keyboard, right, it
yeah,
takes that little bit longer.
yeah.
And you have to learn to communicate those things, otherwise you are by yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that communication aspect is, and I agree with you. I don't think there is a such thing as over. I'm the same way. Like I always call it where I'm with my team or indirect team or direct team, and I call it cascading information. And I'm just like, look, I got this on my mind. I need to cascade this to you guys, and I just cascade communications. Like it's like a pulse. I'm just constantly just like pulsing stuff out there because for me, it's like you're right. I'd rather get it out of my mind, communicate about it, make sure it's crystal clear, and confirm then have the person make the assumption and go run in this direction, go marshal all these resources. And I'm just like, nah, I didn't mean it that way. And I think like
Exactly.
working in an international kind of multinational environment that I work in, like when I first started off at the Marshes, that's where I struggled. Like the communication piece. I was like, I came in, I knew SaaS, I knew it like the back of my hand. This is the third software company I've been at. I was like, I got this down. And my peers didn't have that, right? And I had to humble myself and say, you know what, Chris, I have to be a better communicator because this stuff is easy for me and I can do calculations in my head and know. But to somebody else, they're like, Chris, like, walk us through that. You know what I mean? And I think that's so key is how you think about a meeting. And it gets back to what we talked about earlier, right? Like living. I challenge all the listeners and people out there, go, if you haven't done it already in 2020, right? Go schedule a meeting with that salesperson, that marketing person. And listen, don't make it about the numbers. Ask them how they're doing. Like, how are you doing? How's your family? Like, What opportunities do you see in the business? What challenges do you think you have? What risks do you see in the future? What things coming down the pipeline can I help you with? Like when I first started off at the Marxist, I spent my whole first month, that's all I did was have conversations and start building the connection with my stakeholders, right? And too
Yeah.
many times as FP&A, accounting and finance leaders and people, we miss out on that opportunity. We miss that connectability and that connection that we can have to our stakeholders. So,
Yeah, see, in that communication, what you just said, right? One key statement there was, how can I help you?
right.
Right? That is it. It's not about how you can help me. So again, my whole philosophy of coming with an open book and things like that is, how can I help you? I am confident in my skill set, but forget me. How can I help you? What skill set, what can I bring to you that helps you do better? Because whether we like that answer or not, we are not the bread earners in a business.
We're
And
not.
therefore,
I think we are though. I think in some aspects we're the,
yes, yes, yes. See, again, I can give you examples of where I have helped make a deal more profitable or make a product mix better or whatever else. But we are there to make it better. We are not the front line. And I am respectfully very happy with that, because my job, I'm very clear that I am there to empower those people, to help them do better. So hence my conversation starters always are, how can I help you? What are you stuck with? How can I help you? But what are you working on? Aren't you busy? Forget my work. I know what I need to do. So I'm comfortable with. Let's talk about you. And that is where you will then start getting, build credibility in the business. That's where people will start from, oh, let's avoid the finance person, to let's talk to this finance person.
yeah.
That's the difference. I got my marketing and sales people to like me. How many marketing and sales people come
Like
and talk
finance people.
to finance people? They came to me and they're like, oh, we are actually launching this product in a new market. Can you help us model it? How many marketing people will come to finance and say that? Because
That's
they're always,
huge.
that they're scared. They're like, oh, you know what, finance people will talk to me a whole bunch of numbers. No, I won't. I sat with them in a room, said, okay, what are you thinking? Let's start talking about where is your thought process? Walk me through your vision. Okay, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Then ask pertinent questions in between. Help them in their journey. Remember, it's their journey though, because they are the ones launching the new product in the new country. You are not. You are just a professional brainstormer, if I can
I
put it
love
that.
it. I love that. My mind is blown. A professional brainstormer. Like you just knocked it out the park. That's what we are. We are professional brainstorming people. I love it. I love it.
because because most businesses, they expect finance to be logical thinkers, right?
Yeah.
That is one inherent quality or skill we are all with in finance, and that's what helps them. So why don't we leverage that and not complicate it? Go with an open mind, take your logic in there and work with them, and they will appreciate it because they are creative. You have no idea. My mind was blown when you work with marketing and sales people, the creativity which they have. You're like, oh my God, I cannot even think like that. But they are extremely creative. That's their field.
Yeah.
So respect them for that and bring what you bring to the table. And that way you can actually both work together to add value to the business.
Man, that I mean, that is you have that I think is a like hearing you say that and articulate that for the listeners, like that is like masterful. Like that's top level, that's like high performance, high efficiency, right? And what I see is like it doesn't matter like industry or resources, right? Like I have a team of 3 people, right? Like I don't have a huge accounting and finance team, but I think when you focus on that high performance and a high partnership, and come be a professional brainstormer and solution person, and sometimes you may actually have to be a therapist. I have sat in conversations where I'm like, look, I think it's the you're I understand why you're mad at your husband, but like how can we get back to what this means to the business? Like they're so comfortable with me that they talk about like all aspects of their lives because they're like, Chris, you're such a great listener and you ask probing questions and you challenge my thinking. I'm like, yeah, like I'll do all of that, but let's do it on like a like a go-to-market strategy, not why your kids are acting bad all night. I don't know that, right?
Yeah,
But you mentioned that's the level of comfort that once you get that in the business, you articulated it out the park. They come to you. They want you to be a part of it. They welcome you. They invite you. They say that there's not a business decision that I make that I don't consult my finance partner. Like I don't go consult them. And like that is top of the line holy grail when it comes to a high performing accounting and finance team. So piggybacking on that and diving a little deeper to the listeners, like what would be your your roadmap to help get those people, because maybe they're not at that high performance yet, right? Maybe they're not at that stage to where they're valued at that point that they're being invited to these conversations. What would be some things that, one, two step, three step ideas to help them bridge that gap to for being high performers and high valued advisors in the business, which are like valued advisors from scorekeepers? How would you help people bridge that gap?
I tell you, the what has worked for me is what I will share, right? I the way I got from an analyst to where I am today is by basically organizing my house, as they say, right? Of managing data. The way it happened is I created my own database, my own financial model, which was giving me answers like that. And that's when my CFO and then my senior SVP as well started like, oh my God, I asked these guy questions and he's giving me answers like this. I want to talk to him more. And that's where then they're like, there was a point where I was an analyst and I was sitting in every monthly board review, and I was just a bloody FP&A analyst. I was nothing more than, and I was FP&A sales analyst at the time. So technically, I'm looking after two lines: sales and cost of goods sold. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting in a board meeting with the CEO and the CFO and SVPs and things like that. Absolutely out of place. But the fact is, I had my data so well organized that I'm sitting in that room for 45 minutes. They're banging questions at me. Oh, what is the cost? What did we sell it this one for to this customer in this year? And this, it's not like I'll come back to you in 2 days. 1 second, that's your answer. That's so it is helping them with their thought process of they are thinking of strategy in Eastern Europe or strategy in Turkey or strategy in Germany or in France. And I'm helping them with live data to not stop and wait for 2 days for their answer to come. I'm telling them live. They're like, we like this guy. The CEO, I was shocked. She remembered me by first name. They're like, you are the guy with all the answers. That's it. To to be noticed and to come up from what you call the trenches, okay, to be recognized. Get your house in order. Are you the guy who provides answers, or are you the guy who says, I'll come back to you in 2 days' time, and in 3 days' time you don't come back to them? Okay,
Right.
that is going to make the difference, because then they know that, you know what, and obviously make sure it's right. Don't just make up a number.
Of course.
Let's be clear about that. But so that, hence my first point of FP&A was organize your data, because I've always felt that that's been crucial.
Yeah.
Even at Vodafone, when I was doing investor relations document, right, one of the most important documents in a business, it's going to get published in my statutory, my annual reports and things like that. But even then, I was sitting with Vittorio, was the CEO at the room, CEO of Vodafone at the time, in the room with him as well. He will start banging questions at you. Oh, but what about, because they're all CEOs, man. Their thought process runs at the speed of light.
Yeah.
You need to keep up. And the only way to keep up is to have your data organized. And therefore, then they start valuing you, because they're like, you know what? This guy can keep up with my speed of thought.
Yeah.
And that, if you are able to keep up with their speed of thought, they will remember you. So that's first. And second thing I think is then simplify it. So what I done then is put slice. This was back 10 years back, right? So there's no Power BI then. So put basically slicers and things like that, and worked with my even marketing directors to be able to use a pivot table. And trust me, as much as finance hates PowerPoint, they hate Excel. They hate Excel.
They hate it. Yeah, with a
They hate
passion.
it. But they're like, your Excel Tejas is not too bad. I can work with that. I'm like, yes, because all you're doing is pressing buttons. And I'm assuming you know how to press buttons. But what if I break it? Don't worry, delete it. It's on the server. Take a new copy, get on with it. Right? Simple as that. You can't break it. Do things like that. Make it simple for the customer. And hence my earlier point, walk in their shoes. The only way
Yep,
you can make it simpler is by walking in their shoes. But
definitely.
so own your data, make it simple for the customer. You know what? They will start noticing you because you are making their life easier.
Perfect. That's it.
They
That's
don't
it.
care about how you do it, whether it take you spend all night doing it or you have done it because you're a wizard at Power BI. Why they value you is because you've made their life easier.
Yep.
That's when you will start getting out of trenches. You will become supervisor and then commander in chief only because you made their life easier, not because you made your life easier. That's the difference.
Yeah, I mean that. Oh man, I love that thought process, and I think like when you talk about technology, right? Like technology is my right hand man, like as a finance and accounting person, right? Like Power BI, Tableau, all these different solutions. Like FP&A people that have a strong curiosity and passion for technology, that's how you're able to get that level of automation, right? You're
Yes.
not churning and burning through the Excel files. You're using Power BI. You're using processes and platforms to help you automate getting data. You're focusing your time on the insights, the collaboration, the communication, and the clarity, right? Like you're focused all your time there. And to all the listeners and people, I mean, I can't reiterate enough. Like, I love your first point of getting your house in order. Like, you can't throw shit unless your shit is together as well, right? Like, you have to have it together, right? Like, and that's I can't tell you how many times, man, I've sat in a board meeting, right? And we debate on what is the right number. Like we're sitting there 40 minutes. It's like, I thought that number was 30. I thought it was 45. And getting that data structure and that alignment and leveraging technology from a skill set perspective, I think is a game changer. So when I think of what separates like a good FP&A person from like a great FP&A person, my first question is tell me your tech stack. Like, what's your tech stack that you're using, right? Like, what technologies have you used? Why shouldn't I use those technologies? Tell me about them. Give me use cases where you implemented them. Give me use cases on where they failed. Give me technologies that you would recommend for people. That is what separates it. Because if you can leverage technology along with all these soft skills, like you mentioned about being in somebody else's shoes, being open minded, with the data management and technology skills, you're a superstar, dude. Like you're
Exactly. And it's not only about using technology. I have to, sorry, but elaborate on that one. I am currently going through a process with a business. They've implemented Power BI. You know what they're doing? They are putting all the data in Power BI, bringing it down back in Excel, making graphs in Excel, and then copy pasting that in PowerPoint. You know what? Shoot me. Shoot me. Kill me.
dude, yeah, that's the most awkward. That's
They're
like
like going backwards,
that's
not going
backwards.
forwards. And that is it. So, hence, it is about leveraging technology and really understanding technology. Back in the day, I started with Access. So, I used to put all my data organizations of my line item level detail data and then all my reference tables, create queries, create a consolidated master. Again, everybody who knows me knows that I love to name things master. So, everything is a master, but that means there is a single source of truth. Again, I'm a
Right.
big fan of Lord of the Rings. Single source of truth, one ring to rule them all. Okay, I will give the one ring to the humans and one ring to the elves and whatever else, but I will have finally one ring where I have all the data in one place. And when it comes from there, you never question it because it is audited data which ties to my controllership.
Yeah.
So that is my holy grail. And hence, what you just mentioned, 45 minutes spent on basically considering what is the right number. And now, if I may put a question back to you, how many people are in that meeting room? What are their salaries? What is their 45 minutes worth? What is that one number discussion cost you as a business? And now compare
Oh
that
man,
to a
dude.
Power BI cost per month. What is more efficient? Do I need to draw a business case or the business case is made itself?
Yeah.
that 45 minutes has paid for 1 year subscription of Power BI for everybody. So
Yes.
there you go.
I love it. I love it. Hey, for all the listeners out there, we just made your Power BI use case. You just made it all up right there. Like you, I love. I mean, that's it though. And think about it. Like how many organizations like struggle with that, right? And I do consulting work, and at Collectiv, we work with a lot of different small, medium sized, all across the board businesses. And you'd be surprised, like teams that have like 30 people on their teams, and they're just struggling with like the right number, the one version of the truth, or that precious ring, right? Everybody wants, I want my precious. Everybody wants
Precious.
the precious, And it's like, but how do you get it, right? And not only how you get it, but how do you expand it to other people, right? And I think that's where technology, man, is like, if you're a strong FP&A person and you're really on the verge, like I would highly recommend learn Power BI, learn those systems, become a passionate influencer and passionate about technology, right? Like I love reading about it. I love implementing it. I love utilizing it both in my
Same.
personal and professional life. And those are game changers, man. So
See, if I'm going to again make a brave statement here and I'm going to make a few enemies maybe while I make this, you know what? If you don't learn technology, you will be jobless in 5 years.
facts.
Okay?
I
You
support you in that. I'm
you
strong
don't
with
need
you.
you don't need to learn programming. You may not learn Python or whatever else, but basic technology of Power BI, Power Query, Power Pivot, things like that. If you don't learn, you will be jobless in 5 years because somebody else will. They will automate it, and you know what? Instead of three people making a board report, one person will make the board report. Now the question is, are you going to be that one person, or is it going to be somebody else? It's a simple choice. It's not complicated. It's a very simple choice. It's either you or it's somebody else. And I would rather be me than somebody else getting that job. It's simple as that.
Definitely, man. Like, man, oh man, like I just like the aspect of that, right? And the role that technology is playing. I agree with you. It's not a bold and wild claim, Tias. I mean, it's not at all. Like, I agree with you 1,000%. If people aren't leveraging technologies, if people aren't finding ways to make RPA or AI and machine learning valuable use cases in your business, like you're not gonna, 5 years from now, we're not gonna need people to know how to do an impairment asset entry in our GL, right? Like we're gonna need people that are navigating the business, right? And to all those people out there, right? Like this is my challenge. I talk with I get the opportunity to talk with a lot of college and university kids, and they always ask me, they're like, Chris, man, I look at your history and your career and like what you've been able to do. And like I always told them, I said, look, you have a great business school degree, you learned accounting, you learned US GAAP, you learned IFRS, you learned all that stuff. Throw all that shit out the window, because I mean,
Flush it, flush it.
plus I mean, you're gonna need to know it, but you're gonna need these other extra skills. And they're like, Chris, I didn't take a class on any of that stuff. I'm like, exactly. You've got people that I never took a class called storytelling 101. I never took that, but I had to learn that in my career, that the art of storytelling is so important. It's so important.
And I tell you, actually, if I may add to that one, the reality is I feel that actually the modern generation, the millennials and the post 2000 generation, as they enter the workforce, actually they are more open to technology than us lot. So the
Yeah,
reality is what will happen is the three people doing board report will become one person, and then one person will be a millennial and you will be out of a job.
yeah,
And that is what is going to happen because they are more open, because they don't know the manual grunt work in Excel that you are doing. They will say, you know what, I know Power BI, I can implement this, tuck tuck tuck, it'll work on its own. Back in the day when I even learned Access, somebody taught me Access at work, and out of that I created a center of excellence for EMEA. We used to have 25 people in EMEA finance. From 25 people in EMEA finance, we were left with 11, and I, at a central team, had three analysts, three interns. I didn't get a single extra headcount, not a single extra headcount. We reduced in the region from 25 to 11. And the directors came to us and said, you are actually giving me a better service than I used to get with people outside my door because of the leveraging of technology. And this is back in the day when there was no Power BI, no nothing. So
yeah.
you can now imagine, if today, if I was to, when I
Right.
think back, that if I'm going to do the same thing again, I'd probably not have 11, I'd have probably have six in the region, and I'd probably not have six in the center, I'd probably have three. because I wouldn't need them. What would I do with them?
Yeah.
All I need is the data is automated from the system. It's coming into Power BI. It's coming into a graph automatically. It's all there. All your slicers, dicers, everything is there. I need be somebody to open that up and interpret it for the business and have the business conversation.
Yeah.
I don't need data cleansers. I don't need people to copy paste. I don't need people to do VLOOKUPs or anything of that nature. It's all automated.
Yeah.
And that is the future. There is no other future out there. And if you think there is another future out there, you are fooling yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree 1,000% of everything you just said. And I think it's a great segue to our last question as we kind of wrap this up. I always like to end all the listeners. It's been a challenging 2020. We're moving in forward to 2021. What would you say is the biggest lesson learned that you took away from 2020 that's going to carry forward into 2021?
How much have I moved outside my comfort zone?
Love it.
That's it. Okay. I'm not going to say learn technology or learn this or that because everybody is at a different stage. So, like you, as you just said, right? You know Tableau, you know Power BI, you know certain things. But that means those areas you're comfortable with. What are the areas you're not comfortable with and you've gone out to that? If you are somebody who doesn't know technology or is not comfortable with technology, get into technology. So the point's not, I'm not going to drive your, draw your path for you. You draw your path. The path is only where you've extended your current comfort zone and gone beyond it.
Yeah.
Expanded your circle of comfort. That's what you need to do. And that is the lesson I have taken from 2020. I have learned a lot of things this year. I've done 3 certifications this year. I've
Nice.
done my consulting qualification. I've done MCSA with Microsoft. So I'm now a Microsoft qualified Power BI expert. I have done Anaplan certification as well. So now I know Anaplan modeling as well. Why? Because I didn't have all this before. It's outside my comfort. So I now learned that. Next one, maybe Python, maybe something else.
Yeah.
Again, advice is get outside your comfort zone, but take one step at a time. Because I think another thing I would like to add to that is it's overwhelming. When I look on LinkedIn, I get overwhelmed. People talk about so many things. You should know this, business partnering modeling, so much of technology. I can't learn everything overnight, man.
Yeah.
Fucking my brain blows up.
Yeah.
Can't take it all.
Yeah.
Take one step. Where are you to assess where you are today? What can I do to get that one step forward? In 2 weeks, one more step forward, one more step forward. And suddenly you will realize by the end of the year, oh my God, I've come a long way. But for that, they put one foot in front of the other and get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah, I love it. Tejas, thank you so much for that. I think for all the listeners and key takeaway, broaden your comfort zone. We talked a lot about partnership. We talked a lot about, stepping inside somebody else's shoes. We talked about open-mindedness. I hope everybody that took away from this, man, is continue to broaden their comfort zone. I want to thank you so much for your time, your conversation, your insights. I've wrote down so many different notes and have so much going through my head from our dialogue today. If anybody wants to go look you up on the socials or follow you, where should they look you up at and follow you?
LinkedIn is best. LinkedIn.com /Tejas Parikh. Not
Yeah.
not difficult.
Yeah.
Very simple. So /Tejas and you will find me. And I would love to have any conversation. If you want any further clarification on anything that I've said, I can evidence things with examples. I don't talk philosophical because I don't believe in philosophy. I believe in practical, actionable words.
Yeah.
So I'm always happy to have practical conversations.
Awesome. Hey, man. So, yeah, make sure you go check him out on LinkedIn. Again, man, it's been a pleasure listening and talking with you here today. And everybody, make sure to check us out on our next Collectiv Conversation.